follow discussions regarding synthetic biology, specifically Target 17, and to know exactly what is in the future in the post-2020 biodiversity framework, especially because the new developments that are taking place with regard to biotechnology are quite intense and require a framework that deals with new developments in a way that does not affect the livelihoods of the livelihoods of people, the livelihoods of small-scale farmers, and our general livelihoods, because gene drives now is an experiment in the wild. It happens anywhere, anyhow, without any risk assessment, because the development of gene drives requires that it's tested in the environment. So the environmental release of gene drives is quite worrisome for me. In Uganda, there are no gene drives that have been released, but there's a program to release gene drives in the next coming years. This program is being funded by Target Malaria, working together with the Uganda Virus Research Institute. And they have so far collected our local mosquitoes in Uganda and have set up an insectary, and have also identified key areas that they want to test these mosquitoes in. One of the key issues that we have with that project is that there has been very, very poor stakeholder engagement. A lot of things that are being done with regard to gene drives in Uganda is being done under a lot of secrecy. And since they've been in Uganda since 2012, not many civil society organizations are involved or are aware, for that matter, of what's actually happening. Gene drive mosquitoes will be tested in the wild, but I think worrisome for me is the specific areas that they want to test these gene drives in Uganda. One of the sites they have identified is right next to a water body. So there are many issues that arise from that. What happens if the gene drives now are mixed up with the aquaculture? Does it kill the fish? Does it affect our ecosystems? Because mosquitoes play a very vital role in our ecosystems. And therefore, the proposal to completely eradicate female no-fleece mosquitoes will have severe effects to our ecosystem and to our environment. And there have been these kinds of experiments before, and they have failed. So we also do not want Uganda to be a testing ground for experiments that have failed. You can't recall it. It's not like a contained lab experiment that you can actually go and test and see that, oh wow, this hasn't worked. No, it's actually testing in the wild. And I think the other thing for me that's really critical is the issue of transboundary challenges, transboundary effects of the gene drive mosquito. Because if a gene drive mosquito is released in Uganda, it will go to Kenya. Gene drive mosquito has no boundary, it has no locality, it will go anywhere. So what happens in that case? What law comes into play? International law. These gene drives could actually cause a conflict. So we may have conflict issues with our neighbors, and therefore the release of these gene drive mosquitoes require regulation at all levels, at regional levels, and it's important that people understand that it's not just going to be in Uganda. These mosquitoes will go anywhere, and they can have unintended effects. They can, decide to be some, merge and come out as a wild mosquito. And that will cause even more havoc that we already know. Target 17, there is a deliberate effort to insist that the science-based approaches must apply. There has also been efforts to delete risk assessment, which I think is very, very key, because like we said, this is a test in the wild, and therefore there have to be some risk assessment tests that are done to ensure that we are sure about these mosquitoes, gene drives. But generally, I feel that Africa in particular is a testing ground. The African governments here seem to speak with one voice, and I feel that the African governments need to be more open about the adverse effects. I think that the development of science does not occur in a vacuum. Development of science occurs with people. Therefore, there has to be a precautionary approach to the development of biotechnology. And my view is that the development of science should be very, very cautionary. And therefore, I would prefer that the precautionary approach is kept in that target. For me, that's how I look at it. I think for me, over time, I believe that scientists believe that they work alone and that they are the only ones who have the solutions to everything that we're facing. But the fact is that science needs to be looked at from a wholesome perspective, looked at in terms of what does it do, what are the effects to the society, and therefore also the socio-economic considerations is also very important for me in that target. And like Africa, there are so many socio-economic considerations that must be catered for. Science does not just happen just like that. It happens to people. So for me, that's very, very important. The need for technology assessment, monitoring, and horizon scanning is very, very important, especially for Africa, because we have witnessed the development of so many modern biotechnology that is coming up on the continent, and we don't know how to track it. And therefore, as Ugandan, we need to have a mechanism to track whatever technology is coming into our country. And that's why that specific assessment, technology assessment, monitoring, and horizon scanning is very key. So for us to be able to stand up, to say no. If we don't want something, we can be able to say no to this technology. And the only way we can do that is by having that assessment in our laws and policies. I think obviously we'd want African governments to be more open and less secretive, but with what's happening on the continent, you realize that many African governments need to survive, and they're looking for solutions for their people. And so the scientists have come with solutions to everything. There's a techno-fix for everything. There's a techno-fix for hunger, there's a techno-fix for the climate change, there's techno-fix in every area, and we've realized that techno-fixes actually don't work. So for me, since time immemorial, I've always advocated for the need to find solutions to our structural problems. For example, if we're talking about GM crops, why are crops dying in Uganda? what is the issue, how much money is being allocated to to crops, or to agriculture. And we'll find that there's not much money allocated, but also there are inefficiencies in terms of the extension services, in terms of the quality of crops, in terms of the quality of tools that the farmers are using. And all this can be fixed if we actually pay attention to the structural problems that we face. So techno-fixes can never be a solution to the problems that we face. Unfortunately, our leaders are looking for quick solutions to our problems, which will not solve the issues that we face. So for me, looking at the African governments, there's also a lot of money being thrown around. A lot of money in terms of, when you look at scientists, they're looking for ways to live, they're looking for ways to survive. And so all these developments have come to help them survive and to help them create these crops. But creating them also has an effect on us as a people.